Hey there. Before we start this episode, I wanted to jump into your ears straight away and let you know how you can support us best with this podcast so we can keep this going. So, the most important thing that when you have listened to this episode would be share, share, share. Spread the word, drop our name, drop us in the conversation. If you see a question popping up somewhere, say, the Damn Parenting Ladies, they have an episode on this. Pop the episodes out, get us into the conversation of the communities. This is the best way to support Eva and me. And give us a like on Spotify, give us a follow, jump over to Instagram, Damn Parenting Podcast. Make sure that you spread the word about what you like, why you like the episodes, and that you spread the knowledge that we are putting out there so it can be heard and received by everyone who needs to hear this. And this is what I just wanted to drop with you before now you can enjoy them chat or an expert episode. So let's see what's going to be on. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Damn Parenting, your English-speaking parenting podcast from Amsterdam. And we are your hosts, Maren and
Eva.
This is also another episode with our resident psychologist, Dr. Naomi. Hi, Naomi.
Hello.
We are talking because it's July, so what is right in front of us? Summer vacancy. What comes with that? No childcare. No Abfang, no school, all the responsibility on us. If you have BSO, great. If you have some fun days, great. However, what is also coming is family vacation, traveling with kids, picking a location, the whole organization comes with that. And we wanted to talk because Naomi had said that in the last couple of weeks, she had heard from her sessions, from clients, just being around other parents, that this is a topic that sparks anxiety and insecurities, and people are not feeling super confident and not even super excited about planning a family holiday and what it means to go into the planning, the choosing, the being there. So we wanted to have a conversation with her. How can we address things that spark anxiety, a feeling of overwhelmedness with this whole topic, going on a family vacation, especially if this is your first time as a parent going on vacation. And even if it's your second, third time, you have multiple children, it's always every year is different because it's a bag of full wonders with these children traveling and going on new places. We wanted to cut this into a little chunks. So first, we wanted to address the whole topic of how do we even sit down and plan this all? How can we divide the mental load of planning a holiday? What goes into that? And then also giving this reality check of we're not going to have the same vacation experience as we had when we were just us alone or with our partners or without kids, basically, where we could go in pretty burnt out or like, I need a vacation, go into the vacation, rise like a phoenix from the ashes afterwards. And often the reality traveling with children, going on family vacations is that none of this is going to happen. And some of them, Eva found a great quote from one of the groups. What was it you found?
Which one? The whole thing of when you return from your holidays, you actually need an actual holiday?
Exactly.
I feel that. I think everyone will feel that at one point.
Yeah. So we wanted to jump right into the topic. What comes with planning a family holiday? So I guess, first of all, how can we even start planning this, and what are the things that we should be considering when sitting down and planning a family vacation?
I feel like we're asking Naomi now to be a travel advisor.
That's fine. Yes, I am a travel advisor. No, I suppose I'd be thinking about the holiday that you might want to go on with your baby or your kids. It's possibly a bit different from the holidays that you would have taken on your own or as a couple or with friends or to music festivals or whatever it is that you did for fun before. So it's kind of maybe the first step is thinking what would feel like a holiday nowadays. Is it going to visit family somewhere and getting like support in a different place? Is it going to kind of a all-inclusive whatever kind of place with kids clubs? And of course we're talking about the privilege of being able to travel somewhere. Perhaps it means actually for you it's taking some days off and staying in Amsterdam and doing some of the really cool stuff we got going on here. But I suppose it's first sort of thinking of whoever you're wanting to go on holiday with, your family or whoever, what would look like a holiday? What would feel like a rest for us? And holidays, trips generally have quite a good psychological function in that you get sort of long-term motivation. You know, I'm going to go on holiday at the end of August and I'm looking forward to that. And that can kind of keep you going through the harder moments. And then when you're there, you get the gratification of being somewhere new and getting new experiences and stuff. And then looking back, you can also sort of dine out on those memories and experiences afterwards. So they play quite a good function in sort of, there's a reason why these moments have evolved where people go places and be with their families and have festivities and stuff. It kind of keeps us going and motivated. So I suppose with that in mind, like what kind of trip or activities or things would make it feel like it was something to look forward to rather than dread?
And is this something that you think should be, as parents, depending on the child's age, I guess, should be filling our cups, not just those of the child?
Totally. Yeah. And I think that's the challenge that I see. And Maren started by saying having lots of conversations in therapy about it, because there's a hard kind of balance on how do you meet your child's needs and maybe a wish for them to have this super lovely holiday and all these like core memory unlocked kind of situation versus how are you going to be on that holiday? Is it that being in a beachy environment with a baby and a toddler would be awful for you, too hot, too unmanageable, too whatever, that you wouldn't be able to be the kind of calm and attentive parent that you would want to be? Actually, that would be really overwhelming, and it might be better and more fun to go and on a city break to stay with a friend that lives somewhere else or whatever. So kind of thinking about what you need as a parent to allow yourself to also have those fun memories as well.
I think one question, for me was, what do you remember as a baby? If you're 6 months old, nothing. 1 year old, nothing. 2 year olds, okay. I have a memory of being like just under 2. But for the rest of it, yes, I don't have much memory. So the reality is we don't have to make these amazing holidays for these little human beings right now. So it is a case of capitalizing on them right now to be able to make it as easy on it for us, I guess.
Yeah. And that on a sort of emotional memory kind of way, kids and babies do remember when their parents are feeling settled and kind of fun and not too stressed. So whatever gives you access to that is probably what you need to do, with a bit of a dose of kids having a good time too as well, because that's also part of holidays. Lots of ice creams and whatever fun swimming pools and things.
Ideal to my daughter, that's for sure. Ice creams. Okay, one of the things Maren had actually talked about when we were discussing prior to hitting that record button was we were talking about the division of labor, as it were, when it comes to planning, because there is an amazing account out there, I think it's called Motherly, on Facebook and on Instagram, and they show these like diagrams of like what the mental overload can look like for many of us. Maren had actually, I think, shared, they've got many, but it was a case of like, if you're planning a holiday, it's like, well, first off, what's the day? Can we both do it? Where are we going? Who's got the holidays available? Like, what's the weather going to be like? You know, you've got a list of like 2,500 things in your mind before you can kind of come up with here it is on this date. This is how we're getting there. So there's quite a lot in there. So one of the points Maren was making was the division of labor. How do you think we can tackle that with our partners?
Yeah, division of labor is a toughie. I think there's a part of like playing to your strengths and skills. If there's somebody who really likes researching, I don't know, car hire, that's my husband. He loves to find out about car hire. So that is absolutely his job. Yeah. And then sort of the planning around kind of packing and what we need and certain things, that's something I find fairly satisfying. Can be a bit of an arduous process, but so yeah, play to your strengths. But I suppose it's also about, I suppose any of these things, even if it was household division of labor, it's about sort of making the invisible visible in a sense. So we're about to go on holiday in the next couple of weeks. What kind of things do we need to prepare? What sort of food do we need to buy? You know, the practical things, and just kind of having those conversations and seeing where that lands and making a bit of a plan. And particularly when it comes to kind of baby care and things, thinking how that looks like in your family anyway, because that's something that I see as a big worry in people is, okay, well, how is this going to be a holiday for me if I'm exclusively breastfeeding the baby perhaps, or I'm the only one that's managing food for weaning, and how are we going to take 15 different sorts of frozen purees with us, and then that worry them not being heard by a partner of like, actually that's really important, you can't just rock up in wherever and they might not have the kind of baby food that you need, you know. Just I suppose it's just being able to talk through these worries and have them be heard and made a plan.
I do have to say that does remind me that there was a couple of like WhatsApp chats where people are like, hi, I'm in Thailand right now. Can anyone tell me what's the brand I meant to get here back in the Netherlands because we've run out of it or we spilt it or whatever it was. And you're just reading and thinking like, oh, I mean, that thought already probably would have given me anxiety, and I would not have ever made a trip to Asia with a 6-month-old because I would have just been so, how can we get this? Where can we get it? So kudos to everyone who can do it.
Yeah, and I suppose it just speaks to how hard it is when you're traveling with little ones. You know, if that were you as an adult, you would just be like, oh, whatever, I'll just eat this thing, or maybe it's not my deal, but that works. Whereas there feels like you can't do that, and it's a lot more at stake, which can be a bit stressful.
One thing that I found also very helpful is really sitting down in this. I'm very glad that you addressed this, Naomi, and have a conversation with your partner. What is it that you want out of this vacation? Like, what's the one thing that you want to feel after? Because when in the past, when we went into the vacation, it was like, yeah, I just want to relax. That was like the overlayer of everything. So we made sure we relax. But nowadays, when I ask myself, what do I want out of, what's the one thing that would help me relax? Like, I don't want to worry about cooking. So this was like the one very important thing for me, because I don't want to worry about grocery shopping. I don't want to worry about planning the meals. So this was one very, very big chunk of my mental load in my daily life, where I said I would feel on vacation if this thing is addressed. The whole food situation, I don't want to worry about that. So my husband knows we're not going to rent finca in Mallorca for 2 weeks of self cooking and planning and all that, because this is not something that I would consider a vacation. And he might say, for me, it's important that we're at the beach. So we already know, okay, these are the 2 core things. Let's plan around that. So I find it very helpful to sit down and really, what would be difference that you would feel after this vacation, and how can we address that need, and then take it from there. And that was one thing that we found very helpful, because now that you're a parent, your needs have shifted. And in the past, I loved cooking. I wasn't even paying attention to it wasn't a big thing. I could have gone on a self-sustained vacation for 2 weeks in a house, because I was like, yeah, I enjoy this. It's easy breezy. I'll try out new ingredients. I'll find whatever is in the supermarket. But now it's a labor part for me, and now it's stressful for me. So this is one big part that I always say, I want someone to take care of the food. That's what I need to feel.
So we're going to find you on an you're going to be in an all-inclusive Corfu beach hotel. Okay, that's it. We know where Maren and the family is.
Yes. But this is like, the one thing. So we found, and then we planned around that. And also maybe asking then your child, or looking at your child, what is the environment that they thrive in? So one very basic example is, if your child is young and is scared of the beach and is scared of the ocean and gets a whole tantrum when you even say the word, or you even make one step towards the ocean, and then your vacation plan was, we're at the beach the whole day, then that creates a big problem. So maybe also see what's the environment that your child thrives in, what do they then need, and how can we address all these needs.
Because thinking of food, that is a big sticking point. If you had a kid that for whatever reason only ate plain pasta, like that is a reality for lots of toddlers. Yep. And you were having to go to this dining room every day where they couldn't get what they needed and stuff. Actually, you'd be better off like camping or self-catered, and you can sort of manage the parameters of what feels kind of stress reducing.
That was actually reminded me of something we spoke about prior, where when I was looking into this topic, people were talking about, like, if you might have an introvert partner, you yourself might be introverted or highly sensitive, there's a lot of downtime that requires, and you are in a routine where you're able to figure it out. But once you go on holidays, there's not really a routine, and this can cause a lot of stress. And exactly like you say, is taking everything into account, be it your child only eats beige food. And it's like, well, that's not really going to work out. Like, if sometimes in an all-inclusive resort, or, if your partner is like really needing to be in nature and surrounded by green, your beach holiday might not be what's going to be in the head there. So it's a case of, really understanding each other's perspective of what you both need, I guess. So that's a fair enough point. Yeah. But unfortunately, it can be hard.
One point that I found very important, I also asked myself, how does my child feel that they are on vacation, and how can they also look forward to it? So one thing that I have established in my family is vacation means fun, vacation means something different than home. So giving the very simple example, ice cream on vacation is like unlimited because my child knows, and I also know we're there for what, 5 days, 7 days max. Like it's fine if she eats 3 ice creams a day for these 5 days, because then she knows this is vacation and this is what we can do, or we can eat cake for breakfast. Like, what are the things that your child would feel like, oh yes, this is something different, and it's not the same rules, it's not the same stuff. It's like and they're totally overwhelmed with trying the whole thing at home, but in a different environment. But what is their treat? How can they think back? And this is what I asked my when we talk about the vacation. This is the one thing that my daughter says, "Can I eat ice cream all day?" And I'm like, "Yes, you can, because we're on vacation."
And it feels really nice to offer that treat. And
Yeah.
how can you also offer that treat to yourself? You know,
Yeah,
maybe that
exactly.
is something as simple as an ice cream every day, but also maybe it's like, I don't know, reading a book, or maybe there's a bit more downtime that you can get a little walk on your own whilst your family are doing the things that they're doing on holiday. Or, you know, what would feel like a treat? Is it staying up late? Is it going to bed early? Is it having conversations? Is it playing card games? Like all of these things that are sort of, you allow yourself when you're outside of the normal rhythm of life to have these kind of treat moments. So maybe that's something to sort of reflect on before when we're thinking about planning, like, what would feel like a rest, a relaxation, but would also feel like a bit treaty as well.
What would your example be, Naomi, if we can ask that?
Yeah, what do I like? I love having permission. I think I would have this anyway at home, but I love having permission to read in the evenings, because normally after dinner or whatever, you're absolutely pooped from the day, stick the telly on, you know, the hours just dwindle away. But we go camping. I love camping. And it's, that's the sort of holiday that allows for just sort of sitting and reading until it goes dark, and not really even talking, just sort of just reading your books. And that feels like such a treat, because it's just kind of existing without any sort of need to be entertained necessarily.
And with your kids then, so once you've had your dinner, is it a case of you're still sharing the load of both of you are putting the kids to bed together then? And then it's a case of the two of you are able to then go, let's now read.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
But even those bedtime things, there's something very special about holiday. It doesn't always feel like a chore on holiday. I don't know whether it's because it's a different space that you're doing bedtime in, or like when we're camping, you have to like wander off to the toilet
roll underneath your armpits.
And with your toothbrush and stuff. So like the kids even want to get their teeth brushed, which is like basically a battle.
It's an adventure
at home. So it's sort of, there are definite, there's definite perks to being on holiday. Of course there are, that's why we do it. But there's things about family life that can be a bit easier as well, just by being in a different context and environment.
So one thing I think a lot of parents, especially for first time, so if we're looking at people, there was conversations about people trying to have a holiday after like 3 or 4 weeks after giving birth. And I was just like, oh, no. There's vaccinations to think of. There's yourself and your checkups to think of. But when people are thinking about the 3 months where they're thinking, okay, now's a good time to go away with the kid, they're a baby. And, there's not much that, they have this certain routine. But the thing is, I think a lot of people have this, I think we spoke about it earlier, but the ideology of you've had your holidays before you've had your child. And so you get to go on city tours, you get to go to beach, you get to do whatever you want. But I think there might be a misconnection that when you're bringing a child, oh, well, they sleep anyway and they just need to be fed. There's not much that needs to be done. And I think there is maybe a little bit of a disconnect with the reality check of bringing a child, because you're still parenting just in a different location. And I think there's something, with what we spoke about, the mental load, trying for parents to understand that, yes, you're going to go on this nice holiday with a 3-month-old and it's going to be nice. But it also is a case of, try to take care of yourself and be ready for the reality of still having that home life of being awake throughout the night, or, not being able to go out, or your child is having a punami for an entire day because of something in the water, whatever it might be. I find a lot of people are able to take these holidays no problem, where for me, I could never even imagine going anywhere until my baby was a year old, for example. And so I think, what could we talk about for those who have anxiety, who really want to have a holiday, or especially bring their baby back to their family maybe, or just take a break out of the city just to be together? Is there something you can maybe attest to that?
I suppose the first point is, as you said, kind of accepting that anxiety is often around in new parenthood anyway. And then if you take yourself out of your environment that you've starting to feel kind of safe and at ease in, then that's going to be even more anxiety provoking. I hear a lot about parents struggling with the thought of like, how will my baby be in transport, or how will they be on a plane, or what will they need, or what if they scream the whole time, or what if we get chucked off because they scream so much. And these are really kind of stressful, anxious worries, aren't they? And yeah, I'll just come back to beating the same drum about self-compassion. Like, what do you need to feel like you're doing a good job? You know, how can you speak kindly to yourself? So maybe your baby is absolutely screaming the roof down. Maybe they've got sore ears on a plane and they're having a terrible time and you're also having a terrible time. Like, how can you be calm and kind to yourself know that it's just finite? You know, that your baby needs you in this moment and they're screaming, but it will end, and that you will get somewhere, and that someone will make you a cup of tea and it will be all right, and just you're doing a good job. And that people on the plane probably also think you're doing a great job because they've been there, or they've been that baby, or whatever. Yeah, I suppose I think also about the fact that for me, holidays always used to be about kind of excitement and unpredictability and, oh, should we stay out and go to this thing, or should we go in that, or should, you know, these sorts of things. And actually, those are the ingredients of family life that make things really stressful if things are unpredictable or too kind of exciting. So to just think about how you can maybe still have fun and do things that feel fun to you, but put in some elements of predictability. And that will be different person to person, family to family. You know, is it that you make sure you're in bed at a certain time? Is it that you have those snacks that your toddler really likes? Is it that you bring the certain toys and books from home, those kind of practical things? Yeah, to kind of reduce everything being unpredictable, which it can feel like.
Absolutely.
What I found my practice with starting to go on holidays, starting to go on like these little things with my child was that I took very little baby steps in expanding my radius. So coming back to what you said, Eva, traveling with a 4-week-old or whatever, the first vacation, putting this in air quotations, we did was we took the budget that we would usually have for a week somewhere else in another country with flying and all that. And we booked a very super nice hotel in Amsterdam and stayed there for the weekend. So I knew, and it was literally 5 minutes driving from our home, the hotel. So I was like, okay, if anything is, I can go home. If I need anything, my husband can go grab it. Like I felt like I'm in a super nice hotel. So I am on vacation, but I'm so close to my home. If anything is, I can just go there. It's a 10-minute walk, 5-minute drive. And we did that for one weekend. And then a couple months later, we went to Schirmanikoch. So we within the country. So I knew, okay, if there's anything, they have the same things in the supermarket. They have the same things at there. It's like the same environment, just different. So this is then, and then after this, oh, now we can travel outside the country, and then we went to Germany. So this is really what we did, taking it step by step and learning from these things and not changing too much at the same time. So that was one thing that really worked for us. And then also when we went then further away, the trip to Schirmanikoch, I know every Dutch person now is going to slaughter me how I pronounce it, but this island near Groningen is usually it's a half-day trip there if we would just get in the car, get there with the ferry. But we made it a 2-day trip. We said, okay, we'll take the train to Groningen. We sleep there one night. And the next day, we're going to take the rest of the trip to go there. So this is then we broke it down. And then we didn't lose a day of traveling, but we had a nice night in Groningen, a nice hotel. And then we moved on. And then we did the vice versa when we went back. So really thinking a little bit, how can we break this down into baby steps and expanding your radius? Like, little by little, what feels comfortable now, what feels doable now, and how do we want to travel? Yeah, I could drive with the car to Berlin. It's a 8-hour or like 7-hour drive with one bathroom stop, but with a child, it can be a 2-day journey. So I'm really taking this into consideration. How can we make this fun on the journey, getting there, getting back, and what is then the actual time we spent there?
Yeah, and I think you were really, in those examples, sort of meeting yourself where you were. You weren't expecting this non-mum version of yourself to just be like, right, we're going to go, let's do it, don't worry about it. Actually, you were saying like, this is a scary thing to do, or it does feel like it would be safer if we were closer to home. Okay, now we've got it a little bit more confident, let's go further away. It's sort of, yeah, that's really kind to yourself in those moments. And it sounds like you also had fun as well,
Yeah,
right?
It was great. Yeah, it was really great. And I hadn't really realized it just came up when we were talking. I was like, oh, because I was thinking like, how did we start traveling? Well, first of all, it was also different because it was like in the midst of COVID. So putting that also out there, but then also putting it out there for parents now that now the world is back open. Now we need to travel. Now we need to do all this big stuff. Like Amsterdam, how many millions of people come to Amsterdam every year as tourists? So the city is designed to explore. And even if you're not from Amsterdam and listening listening to this, then maybe a trip to Amsterdam, or vice versa. For me, a trip to Rotterdam or a trip to Utrecht for the weekend is then vacation, or even to Cologne, Düsseldorf, or whatever. So really, what's the radius? How can we make it easy? And like you said, I wanted to do something, but I didn't feel confident, and it gave me so much anxiety, like going somewhere very far. So I thought, okay, this is the hotel. I know it's going to be nice. And I also know I can be home in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Good point. I'm surprised with that. I didn't know that about you.
I know, traveling all around the world. This gave me the confidence to now travel around the world, because I took it step by step, and I know what I need. I know what my child needs. I know what my husband needs more and more. So this is how we learn and grow. And also, don't be afraid of going back to the same old places, because that's what we've been doing. If something works, then it works. And if
I never would have done that, but we were like fourth year on a row going back to the same campsite.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like, it's not broken. Let's keep going till it feels not the right place. And the kids like it. And you can also, that's quite handy, because you can be like, oh, we're going to that place, and do you remember where we eat this kind of food? And you know, you can go and get a baguette in the morning and stuff, and they're like really excited about that. So there's some benefits in the repetition that 25-year-old me would be laughing at myself for doing.
I mean, that was my childhood, going to the same small town for I don't know how many years, but yeah, and I was so bored with it. But the reality is it gives you also stability, because you know where you're going to, you know what to expect as well, even as a child, as young as 5, 6, 7, I guess. Before we wrap it up, I think maybe we should kind of give some tips and tricks that we've learned along the way ourselves, just for how we manage things. So I'll just knock some off here. For example, one of the things I had, which I actually borrowed from Maren, was the stocky travel box, where when you're traveling to America, it's really easy for my child to fall asleep. I'm super jealous because I have restless leg syndrome, so my legs are jumping around, and meanwhile she's stretched out like luxurious premium economy or business class. That for me was always great. Bundle the snacks. I don't like her to snack throughout the whole day, but I'm like, we're on a 8-hour flight, and I'm like, girl, you just eat whatever you want, as long as you want. I really don't mind, as long as we can get through it. We got the headphones. What else do we got? Books, Play-Doh. I mean, you can see there's piles of like suggestions out there. And it was also a case of getting her up and walking around. That was the other thing, was just constantly getting her up just to look and explore. We were very fortunate. We got on a flight actually this year, and we were one of the first ones on, and they asked us, did we want to go into the cockpit? And I was so excited. And my daughter said, no, thank you, and walked off. And I was crushed. I think, it's just one of those things, just keep them up and running around. But there's certain things that will work for your kid depending on their personality. So it was books and food basically is for my daughter. You guys?
So the handiest thing, also equipment, when you think car seat, when they have outgrown the baby, the carrier baby, what's it called?
The maxi
cozy.
Maxi cozy, exactly. Yeah. Or any other brand.
Yeah.
The Urban Kanga car seat is amazing for even small toddlers. It folds into a backpack. You can take it on a plane as a carry-on. So I can highly, highly, highly recommend that. It's not meant to be for hour-long car drives, but it's exactly what you need for this taxi transfer, 30-minute, maximum an hour, I'd say, in that seat. But that has really, really helped us, along with the little stocked travel bed thing. And one thing that I also found handy for myself is we travel with the iPad with headphones. And then one thing that I try to limit is it screen time or is it the snacking? So I want to pay attention to one thing where I'm like, okay, we need to contain one of these factors, where it's like, it can't be endless screen time and endless snacking all at the same time. So I said, all right, this is what I'm going to limit it to. This is the area where I'm going to limit it to. So this one thing that I try to remember, okay, what is the one thing that can float a little more freely and make everything easier? But then on the other side, is the one thing that I want to pay attention to and contain it a little bit so it's not all over the place?
I think a top tip for me would be about just that your child or your family's sort of ecosystem, aren't you? So trying to keep yourself calm and also snacked, and also having appropriate adult, I was going to say toys, but that's definitely not what I mean. Just as in adult things to look at on a plane as well. So you got
books,
all of your books. There we go.
Podcasts.
Things like
download all your favorite podcasts.
Yeah. To just, as in, like, there's so much tension on what your kid might need to remain calm and regulated. What do you also need? Do you need like things that smell nice, that keep you calm, things that keep you grounded, things that keep you breathing exercises, whatever it is? You'll have various tools tools in your arsenal, but also what do you need?
Well, I'm just pointing out that like what myself and Maren have just done is like, what is it that we could just get by to manage our kids? And you being a, a therapist basically who's able to help us manage ourselves, you actually just focus on exactly what we should be focusing on is how can we take care of ourselves as well?
Yeah.
All the snacks in the world is not going to help if you're like a jittery, anxious, shouting version of yourself.
Yeah. No, because I'll grab them off her and I'll just eat them. So, I mean, win-win somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But this is the one thing, that you mentioned is also that I have in my little hand purse bag, it's like I have a nice face spritz where I'm like, okay, if I really get super overwhelmed, first of all, it's this sensory shock in quotations because it's not ice cold, but it's a nice scent. It's a nice little splash in the face where I'm like, okay, take a breath, spritz, take another breath, get fresh into the situation. So this is, or it can be a
really
little,
helps,
whatever, roll on, like whatever is it, or like these little massage rings that like one tool, one skill that you have that calms you, or mint breath hills. So like one stimulus that can take you out of this anxiety that you might be getting into when thinking or going through the whole traveling journey.
Yeah. But the most powerful thing you don't have to buy at all is your breath.
Yes.
That you can be like, I'm going to slow down, take a few breaths here. And that's often the reset you need to then go into the next challenge.
And with that, this challenge of traveling with our kids, I guess we're going to wrap it up here because unless you're bringing us with you and we record another 15 hours of here's another idea to entertain your child and here's another idea for you to take care of yourself, much like Naomi did suggest last time during the Festive Reflections, she was talking about how she makes sure she goes out for a run because that was paramount to her. So equally, it could be a case of we give ourselves allowance to maybe go out for a walk on our own, maybe while the other parent maybe takes care of the kids at night or what breakfast or whatever it might be. I mean, I don't know about everyone else, but me going to the Albert Heijn sometimes to me is my break. That is my walk. I know it's not the best, but take what you can. So thank you again. We'll have our notes up on Instagrams if you want to go back and check to see what notes. If you haven't taken any, we've taken them for you. So check out our Instagram.
And before you step on that plane or wherever you don't have any cell phone reception, make sure you download this episode and follow us on Instagram, Dan Parenting Podcast, also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. We are also on YouTube. If you want to drop us a line, reach out to us via Instagram. This is the most frequented channel by us where we get your messages. Activate the bell on your podcast player so you get a notification every Monday when we drop a Damn Chats and every Wednesday when we drop an expert episode, when we talk about a topic that has come up within the community or a question that we came across. And with that, also like and share this episode, spread the word, send this to your friends who are traveling, who are maybe anxious about the whole vacation topic. Make sure you spread the word, you bring us into the conversation so we can keep this going, and we'll hear you on the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.